Hi guys, my name is Zahara, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about retail therapy. So, I'm not going to go into huge detail as to what retail therapy is because I'm going to assume that most of us have probably engaged in buying things excessively without real purpose at some point in our lives. I know I definitely have. I'm guilty of this. I really just want to talk about this guy right here. This is Ernest Dichter, and he could be considered the founder or, the father of retail therapy. He was really prominent in the findings of how to get people to buy things and how to market to the general population. They call him the Freud of the supermarket age because he was using a lot of psychoanalytical techniques to get into the consumer mindset and encourage them to buy things that they may or may not have needed. Um, just a quick rundown of who this guy was. He was from Vienna in the 1930s. He was Jewish also and was specialized in psychology. Um, he left his home. Obviously, it was during World War II. Probably not the best time to be in Europe, while being Jewish. So he left and he came to New York City, where he started to become really invested in marketing and research and how to really engage consumers to buy things. So, um, so through his findings and the things I want to talk about today, he was able to find sort of three main tactics to get people to buy and how, through neuromarketing, he was able to develop these three things. So the first one that we're going to talk about is sort of something that he preached in a lot of his books and a lot of his interviews, where he would say irrational buying equals smart selling. So he found that people buy a lot on impulse, and if you can take advantage of those impulses, then you're going to sell a lot. The second tactic is just personifying your products, giving them life and soul and personalities. Uh, People will find a connection to those products and are more likely to want them. And then the third tactic we're going to discuss is how he was able to target a lot of people through the stereotypes. Groups of people were easy to target because, he played upon those stereotypes. And we're going to talk about this in just a little bit um, more, more in depth. So, how was he able to develop these revolutionary techniques? He really, really had to understand the market. So, the way he was able to do that is by combining psychoanalysis and consumerism. So, in the previous slides, you probably saw that he was considered the founder, or sorry, sort of let's go back, the Freud of the supermarket age. Okay, so that's where the psychoanalysis comes in. He was taking a lot of Freud's ideas, and Freud was really popular at this point in the world of psychology. He was taking his ideas and incorporating the concepts of the subconscious and sort of the hidden desires of humans to turn their wants, the things that they were, really wanting, into things that they felt like they needed, which is something we discuss in class. All these luxury items that we feel like we want aren't truly needs, but he was able to persuade people to turn them into needs, which is just another form of neuromarketing. So the way that he went about doing this is he was really good at qualitative research. So that was his method of data collection. At this time, there weren't really any computers, there weren't any type of technological ways of finding things about people like we have today. So he was using a lot of sort of one-on-one interviews and conversations with his subjects, and that's just qualitative research, that personable approach, as opposed to quantitative research, which is more sort of associating people with just kind of numbers and lumping everybody into one sort of population, right? Um, so yeah, his qualitative research really dug deep into the true intrinsic wants of people, and he was able to play upon that and find out how to sell. And then over time, after Dichter's reign, we find the Zaltman metaphor elicitation technique, which is just a sort of an improvement upon his qualitative research, where people were given metaphors and images to find out what they wanted, or for the researchers to find out, what they're really wanting, right? So here are some trends that he was able to discover through his research. So what we talked about personifying the products, he was able to do this a lot with like mundane and unexciting products like soap. The article I read talked about how he was able to build this whole world just around soap. Um, Soap is something that you don't think about, but the way Dichter advertised it, he would say, well, soap is something that you need to use in your everyday life, and you use it as a form of self care. You use it as a form of um, improving yourself and showing other people that you care about your hygiene. And then went on this whole sort of tangent about how using this certain brand of soap encourages confidence. And so, really drawing upon those ideas of the subconscious and wanting, to feel accepted and confident, he was able to market that idea. And so, yeah, bringing products to life. And then through that, he was also able to look at how connecting to the audience personally um, through their gender and through specific ways he was able to market to these people in the population. So gender wasn't as fluid at this time, so it was easier to market to men because men wanted to be associated with strength and power and confidence, and so he would market things like cars and tools and things like that. Whereas to women, he would usually try to sell home appliances because they wanted to be associated with comfort. Um, so, all sexist implications aside, this is something that was obviously really working and he was selling a lot. So, is this ethical? Well, a lot of people were beginning to question that throughout his process. This guy, Vance Packard, wrote the book The Hidden Persuaders, which talks a lot about how manipulative and how really immoral some of these things were. Um, Targeting this audience and getting them to buy things that they don't need isn't really something that should be allowed. But it happens. A lot of people were losing a lot more money than usual because they they were being manipulated. And so I just like this quote where it says Packard was targeting Dichter for exploiting the emotions of consumers and inspiring glut or self indulgence, whereas Dichter would probably just kind of say, treat yourself, you deserve these things. Um, so this is definitely something that we struggle a lot with today, and it's not okay because it's costing us a lot. So I sort of developed these three solutions, which I feel like could really help when we are in the situation where we're using retail therapy as a way of coping with other things that should be dealt with in a different way. So, the first solution is being aware of your shopping triggers. Um, I associate retail therapy a lot with emotional eating because they have a lot of the same associations. So usually it's something external that's happening to you. You're not able to cope with something that's upsetting you. So your first impulse is going to be to go shopping, to buy everything in sight, and then feel that sort of remorse or guilt. And so just be aware of those triggers. If you're around a group of people, if you're at the mall, everyone's buying things, just sort of treat it like a wave and just wait for it to pass. And don't be mindful. Don't jump on those impulses because it's going to um, it's not going to be a good thing for your wallet. My second solution is just documenting your wants and needs. Write things down, just like we did with our SMART goals assignment. Um, Writing your wants and distinguishing them from your needs really puts a finality to things. So your brain then is now wired to know which things are a need, which things you cannot live without, you cannot survive without. You can't survive without food, can't survive without certain types of clothing, coats, shoes, things like that. Um, but you can survive without the latest iPhone. You can survive without the $300 jewelry, whatever, just write them down and, get into the habit. Um, and then my third and final solution is just looking at timing. Timing is so important, just like we learned in our discussion in our lecture, where just buying things a week after they're being marketed to you, just like Rich talked about how buying Christmas presents a week after Christmas is going to save you so much money because the prices aren't going to be as expensive. They're not marketing at that point, so things are going to be a lot cheaper. Buying your fireworks the day after 4th of July. Um, Being aware of your age and how that impacts, your insurance, and um, just be aware of the time in which you buy things, and that is really going to impact how much money you're saving and how much money you're spending. So, that is my quick rundown of retail therapy. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope that you enjoyed listening to my presentation. Thank you so much.